Do you know that you can get pulled over by a park ranger?
Do you know what to take on your next trip with your horse when you go through the woods?
Do you know what trail markers to look for? All this and more on our latest podcast with Lora G. Welcome to Late Night Riders. I'm Gretchen, and I'm joined by my grandma, Debbie, my mom, Kristen, and Lora G.
Hey, Lora.
Hi.
Hey.
Hello.
So, Lora, tell us a little bit about your job and what you do with the Metro Parks.
My job now or my prior job?
Your prior job.
My prior job, I was a park ranger with Metro Parks of Toledo, and I was stationed at Oak Openings Preserve, and I did that for 25 years. I retired in October 2017. That lasted about a year and a half, and my my current job is ground maintenance assistant. In former times, we called that a seasonal, and that's actually how I started years ago, 28 years ago. I started at Secor Metro Park, and I actually worked at the Mounted Patrol Unit, which is now the Ward Pavilion. So that's what I'm doing now.
So that job kind of tends to grow sometimes, so maybe we'll see that there's something more down the road.
Yeah, we'll see. You never know. But I'm only working limited hours, and my main focus now is getting the horse trail up to par, and so I'm really enjoying it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So can you talk a little bit about like the duties of a park ranger? And we were talking earlier, and I found out that park rangers can pull you over.
Yes, they can. So she's going to watch her speed now as she goes down Oak Openings Parkway. The park rangers at Metro Parks of Toledo are certified peace officers, meaning they have gone through police training. So they enforce the Ohio Revised Code, and they also enforce Metro Parks rules and regulations. So they are law enforcement officers, Gretchen.
Which is a good thing. I mean, you guys, you carry guns, too. I mean, you are prepared in case any, and that's a good thing to know that there are people there that, are watching. So it's a good thing.
So when did you start riding?
I started riding when I was 18, 1986. So you can age me now, folks.
You're a baby.
Yeah. So, and then I also went to Ohio State University in their horse production and management. What do you call it? Program, yeah.
Yeah.
And after that, I went to University of Toledo and got a bachelor's degree in environmental studies, resource management. So it was really a very neat fit to be a park ranger at Oak Openings, where they had a horse trail.
So how many horse trails does Oak Openings have?
I always say there's one horse trail at Oak Openings, but there are varying loops that you can take. There's short loops if you just want to ride for 1 hour. If you wanted to ride the whole horse trail, it would be about 20 miles, and depending on how fast you rode, it would be about 4 to 6 hours to ride the entire trail. There's also medium length loops too. It's a very well thought out trail. And there's a parking area at the southernmost part of the park, and there's also a nice little parking area on Monclova Road that holds 4 horse trailers, which is really nice because it gives you access to the north loop.
You're still going to have to school me on where the trails are so I can figure it out. We'll have to have a lesson at some point.
Well, speaking of that, so she and I went out on a trail, and is it hard to get, or is it easy to get lost, or how do you find your way back if you
It's easy
do?
enough for me.
Well,
like newbies.
I think it would be easy to get turned around. Mm-hmm. Our horse trail is marked very well. You'll find a horse trail marker at every intersection. If you come across another trail intersection, a road intersection, or a fire lane intersection, there's always going to be a trail marker there. Mm-hmm. The difficult thing is navigation. If you don't know north, south, east, and west, it's real difficult to get turned around. Mm-hmm. And honestly, working there 5 days a week, 40 hours a week, it took me about 3 years to really learn all the trails there.
There you go.
Wow. So it's easy to get turned around, and I really encourage people to get a map know where you're at, maybe even take a highlighter and highlight a route that you think you might want to take. There are paper maps. You can also print one from the website, metroparkstoledo.com. And there's also great apps that you can download on your phone. That's what I use. I don't need it to navigate, but I like to use it to see how fast I've gone or how far I've gone. And I only can hope that the calories burned is correct, because I burned 661 calories today, if it is.
So as part of your job, did you ride the horses through the trails, or is it all like driving the vehicles?
Well, over my career, I drove. You can do foot patrol. I also took the IPIMBA mountain bike training, so I also patrolled on bike. And I had a really neat opportunity, and I was permitted to use my horse to patrol.
Wow.
And so my horse Tex, who's a Tennessee Walker, he'll be 23 this year. He's been part of Metro Parks for, well, ever since he was 4, so 19 years.
Cool.
Yeah. And we also participated in special events. We actually would go up to the Ward Pavilion and do volunteer recognitions. If it was a Western theme, we would do that. We've been out at Side Cut, and then we also started a mounted volunteer trail patrol back in 2006.
That's so cool.
Nice.
The one thing I wanted to say too is that it is. I've looked up Oak Opening so many times, and I have it like memorized. It's one of the most diverse parks in the United States. One of the top 10 metro parks of the United States, and most diverse in sand dunes, pine trees, the swamp area, prairie grasses, some of the last prairie grasses that are here, some of those things. That it's beautiful. The trails are gorgeous. They're made so well for the horses, whether it's the dirt trail or bridges. I mean, there's a lot of nice
Now, are
things
there
to go
mounts to get up on your horse when you start
Yes.
the trails?
Thank goodness, because I definitely need those. Over the
We all
years,
do.
I worked real closely with volunteers, and the Ohio Horsemen's Council has installed, I believe there's 5 mounting platforms in Oak Openings, and I've used every one of them.
Nice.
And I'm so thankful.
So nice.
Because, I'm not the same as I was when I was 18, when I was riding. I could get up with no problem. I could get up on a tall horse. Now I have problems getting on a short horse, but that's not going to stop me from riding.
Right.
So I'm always thankful for volunteers and their donations.
Well, you've had some injuries too, so no wonder. But I mean, don't cut yourself short,
Right.
because you've done a lot. So, but the platforms are awesome. They're really nice. They're made so very well, and I didn't know that the Ohio Horsemen's Council had been a part of that as well, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, I've been working with them for about 20 years. And also there's all 4-H clubs that volunteer and donate, and also individuals too. So we have a great opportunities with volunteers.
And we have a lot of horses around here, but people come from all over to ride too as well.
They sure
I know.
do.
Yeah.
And back to what you were saying a few minutes ago, if you ride the horse trail at Oak Openings, you're going to ride through every one of the areas that you mentioned. You're going to ride through sand dunes. You're going to ride through pine forests, deciduous forests, and some of the low-lying, more swampy areas. But the trail is elevated enough that you won't get bogged down in it. But you'll ride through every one of those. And the opportunities to view wildlife on horseback are incredible. Yeah. You will see far more wildlife while on horseback than you will on foot or on bike.
That's really
So
cool.
say I really like something and it looks really cool and it's off the trail. If I go off the trail, is that a bad thing to do?
That would be a no-no, yes. And that was one of the rules I did enforce when I was a park ranger. We put the trails where we know that they're safe. In Oak Openings, there's a lot of delicate flora and fauna that you could accidentally step on. And also in Oak Openings, there are boggy areas.
Okay.
So if you were on your horse and you went down into one of the boggy areas, you might get your horse stuck. And it could be a real problem getting it out, and it might not come out. So there's the parks always put trails in the safest place, and that's the reason that we should stay on them.
Stay on the trail.
Yep.
I know we rode one time, and you told us that there was skunk cabbage. It's a real leafy plant that comes up in the spring, and you said whenever you see that, it's soft, real soft ground. And so now I watch wherever that is, because I don't want to go where that is with my horse. So those are things to know. Stay on the trail.
Yep.
Don't go off
Now,
the trail.
are horses allowed to graze as you're going, or is that frowned upon?
Well, I mean, I think that's a personal choice. I mean, I know a lot of riders who would never permit their horse to take a little snack on the trail. I'm a little more lenient with mine, I'm the one who wants to be out riding. I'm not sure my horse always wants to be there. So if he takes a little snack,
Are there plants that they need to avoid?
There are some plants that horses should avoid. They naturally will avoid them. There's nothing toxic along our trails that I've noticed over the years. So horses are a great judge, even in their pasture, of staying away from things that they know are going to harm them.
Do you know how many parks we have within the metro parks here?
We have a lot.
Well,
Some new ones, too.
I don't know if I'm well versed on that. When I retired, there were 9, and now there's a few more that they've. What do I want?
Blue Creek one that just opened, too? Mm-hmm. Is that one?
Well,
That's across from
Or is that-
us.
And then there's one downtown, too, also in Toledo that just opened as well. Like,
There's-
we're really...
But out of all of them, is Oak Openings the only one that you can ride at?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. I think the next closest park, although it's not a metro park, would be Van Buren State Park, which is near Findlay. That's our next closest horse trail.
Okay.
So, what are some of the things that riders should keep in mind when it comes to safety on the trails?
I think there's a few things that come to mind. The first one is to always stay on the marked horse trail. We talked about that a few minutes ago, about the importance of staying on the horse trail, but if you venture off onto a foot trail, let's say, and you come across a bridge, that bridge might not be rated for horse traffic. So there's a good opportunity for the horse to fall through the bridge decking. So for your safety and the horse's safety, always stay on the horse trail. Another thing is to have a map. Make sure you have the ranger cell phone number handy, maybe even program it in your phone in case there's an emergency. You don't have to fumble through phone numbers or Google or whatever web search you want to do to get a number. Sometimes if you call 911, it's not routed directly to that agency. It has to go through a number of different dispatchers before the actual park ranger would get the call. So I know the park rangers' phone numbers are listed on the website too.
Yeah.
Carry a map, know where you're at. Just take a little time before you ride to know where you're at. Map that out.
As far as things that you should bring with you, like what do you recommend?
A cell phone, first and foremost, and keep that on your body. Do not put it in a saddlebag or a horn bag, because if you come off, your horse takes off, there goes your phone. Especially if you're riding alone. Take your phone, take a camera so you can take pictures. I take a separate camera because my phone doesn't always take real sharp pictures when I'm moving. So I take a separate camera, a map, water, and bug spray.
Oh, that's
Especially
that's important.
now that the sun's going to come out for a while and it's going to warm up. We definitely need that at Oak Openings.
So are there also, too, I know, special spots you like to stop at now that they have for the horse riders to take, stop or whatever, and even, maybe picnic there or whatever, you could take some food along or stop? Is that, are there several places? Or I know that they have also, too, a cabin, I believe, that they built, or a place to be able to spend the night, I think, now for horse people?
Hopefully
Is that
in the
right?
future that will
future.
happen. That was
Okay.
talked about before I
Okay.
retired.
Okay.
There are 3 rest stops along the horse trail. One is at Evergreen Lake. There's a vault toilet there. The hitching posts will be replaced soon. We're rebuilding those, and we'll install those soon, and a picnic table. There's also one we call it the Springbrook Boy Scout Camp, picnic table, water, and there's mounting blocks at all these rest areas too. There's a 3rd rest area. The newest one is up on the North Loop by Girdham Road. And Debbie, that's where we had a picnic a few
we
years
did.
ago
We
in
had a
October.
wonderful
Or no,
picnic.
that was July. Hot
Oh,
July.
so nice.
And then Oak Openings does have 2 primitive campsites for equestrians that allow 2 horses per site. It is primitive, so if you have a tent, it's good for the people that don't have living quarters on their trailer. There's a vault toilet there and water, and there's corrals for the horses, so you don't have to tie them up, and they can
nice.
move freely after you've had a long ride.
So is that just
Yeah.
during the, like by dusk you have to leave the park, correct?
If you're doing a day ride, yes.
Okay.
If you're going to spend the night, of course, you are supposed to be off the trail at dark.
But you get in touch with the rangers to tell them that you'll be there?
Well,
The
that
campsites, like the 2 primitive campsites, or those?
yeah, that's a good idea to let the ranger know that you're there. They do get printouts to let them know who's going to be where, because we also have a campground at White Oak, not an equestrian campground, but it helps the rangers keep track of people too.
So you have to request that ahead of time.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
So it's a sign up for it. So we were talking about trails, and you talked about pedestrian trails, and we also have an amazing bike trail now.
Yes.
With
Yes.
lots of different. There's the what is it, the teeter totter kind of a thing, and bridges and all sorts of things. When you're riding your horse and we're riding through with the bikes, who has the right of way? What's the
Who is
protocol
supposed
for
to? Right.
people who are riding bikes and people who are riding horses?
That's a great question. In Oak Openings on the horse trail, you're going to encounter mountain bikers 2 times. Up by Springbrook Boy Scout Camp, actually, if you're heading toward the camp or away from it, there's 2 mountain bike crossings. On that section, it asks the horse riders to yield the right of way. And there's a nice sight line, so I think as long as everybody's going slow enough, it'll be, you won't have any issues. There's another section of trail where bikes share the trail with horses, and that's on the Wabash Cannonball Trail between 64 and Girdham. Horses have the right of way there. We ask cyclists to stop and slow down and wait for horses. Today when I was riding, I had a cyclist coming head on at me, and that's actually more safe than when you have them coming up from behind.
Right.
And the gentleman was so kind. He said, "I know I'm supposed to stop." I said, "Oh, you don't have to stop. You can just slow down." It was a great encounter.
Nice.
And the tough ones are the cyclists that aren't aware of the etiquette, and that can be problematic for a horse that might be a little more skittish because bikes are so quiet. I haven't heard of any incidents lately, but I always try to talk to people. I think sometimes hikers or bikers might think I'm a little odd. Like, why is she always saying hi? Like, what? She doesn't stop saying hi, because I'm trying to encourage them to say hi back so my horse hears the voice and recognizes that's a human on the bike or a human with that big backpack on.
There you go.
Sometimes they'll just wave.
Hello.
So I say hello, and they just give me a funny look. But Tex, Mr. Personality today, there was a hiker on the mountain bike trail as we were crossing, and I said hello, and the man said hello, and Tex picked up his pace, like he wanted this guy to pet him. So I said, "Hey, do you mind giving him
Do you mind petting my horse? Do you mind saying hello to my
He
horse?
came all the way up here to greet you. But I will warn you.
little dog.
Yeah, I will warn you. Your hand will get a little dirty. I apologize, but he was really good about it.
Aw.
So I try to make every encounter with non-equestrian, lighthearted and fun, so they look forward to seeing horse riders.
Yeah, that's nice though.
So have you ridden at other parks around the area, and do you notice any differences between Oak Openings and those parks?
Yes, first I will say there's a huge difference between Oak Openings and every other park I've ridden at. I've ridden in Michigan, at Mayberry Metro Park. I've ridden up almost to the UP. I haven't crossed the bridge with the horse yet. In North Carolina, I've ridden, and Yosemite.
Wow.
That was a guided ride. I did not take my horse that far. And the best thing about Oak Openings is the terrain. It is flat. It is wide. It is safe. and you can actually enjoy your ride. I've also ridden at Pleasant Hill Lake down in southern Ohio and Mohican, and I can tell you that the horses really enjoy the rides at Oak Openings because they don't have to concentrate on what's under their feet. They can actually look around.
And enjoy it too.
It's all business in these other parks. Yeah. The sand and the sand tread at Oak Openings is fantastic for horse feet. They don't need shoes. The only time I ever put shoes on my horse is if I know I'm going somewhere rocky. So that's a money saver. I've also ridden in Chagrin Falls area at South Chagrin Reservation, and that's really nice. That's got some mild hills, nothing super challenging, but they have a lot of water crossings. We don't have any water crossings at Oak Openings just because the ditch or river banks are too fragile. So we put bridges. And that can be a challenge for some horses who are used to doing the bank crossings to go over a clunky bridge. Yeah. Clunky meaning their feet hitting the decking.
You're like a long short rider or a short long rider. You've done a lot of rides. That's pretty amazing.
I'm trying to do more. I feel like I haven't accomplished what I'd like to, but I've got some time for that, I hope.
Done well. Aww. I think even with other riders on the trail, on certain trails, you need to know kind of what to do because sometimes you can have a horse that's fidgety or fussy with other horses, and to know the etiquette, the proper etiquette. What would you say, like when horses are passing, if they're dancy or your horse doesn't want to stand still or it's a tight path? That can be. What's the best thing to do?
I would let the dancy horse go first because he's the one who's got someplace to be. Tex acted a little bit antsy today when we stopped to talk to someone, so we just moved on. But the trails at Oak Openings are wide enough that when you're overtaking or even coming head-on passing, you've got plenty of room. And, by nature, horses are horses, and, they might not like another horse that's passing them. So just keep them moving and keep away from the back legs, of course. You don't want to get kicked.
And riders too are, staying on their horses, you can walk your horses, that's fine too, but the other thing is that they need to leave everything the way that it is in the park as well too, I understand, not take things from the park, or pick things or whatever the case may be.
Leave no trace.
Yep. Yeah. That's why take pictures with your camera.
There you go.
I take pictures every single ride. I have to enjoy the memory of that.
Yeah. It's so beautiful there.
Now, this week is like the biggest birding week in our area. Have you noticed a lot of people coming in and out of Oak Openings?
Yeah, definitely. Yep. There were some, actually, when we got back from our ride, there were some birders parked at the Horse Rider Center, which is a fantastic place to view different birds. Even after the tornado damage came, the tornado came through in 2010. I survived that tornado. I was working that night. But
crazy.
There's some really neat habitat now because of that. So
really, more so than before. Then,
I think it just made it a little more diverse.
Okay. So we have I don't want to get too off subject, but the birds in the area, have you heard anybody saying that they've seen some pretty, some different migrating birds like that are a little hard to find or whatever? Have you heard the word or no?
I haven't heard any word on that. Okay. I asked some park visitors yesterday, and they had just gotten out on the trail, so they didn't see anything. But yesterday I did see a scarlet tanager on Oak Openings Parkway, which is very hard to miss. The bright red, real
pretty.
Stunning.
That's neat. Kristen's seen a couple of Oreos already.
I know.
Too. Amazing. Just amazing.
2 this year. It's the first time I've ever seen them. Too.
So pretty.
And bluebirds. We have a little bluebird that sits out here on our shipping deck and comes over to one of our fence posts.
There's a bald eagle that was flying around too.
Yes.
Yeah.
The bald eagles. So much more when you're up on your horse too. The bald eagles.
Oh
yeah. I've had a barred owl because I've listened to its call, and it's been in my yard a lot, and I've never heard it before. Which is very, very, very cool.
Have you located where it's nesting?
No, but actually, Mikey heard it the other day too. We were out, and I'm like, listen, and you could hear it. I'll have to play the recording for you that I have of it. You'll be surprised. Yeah, but I'd love to locate the nest. I was like surprised because I'd never heard that kind of an owl here before. Here's
You
a little
might find some babies.
Owlets. But not the,
cool.
yeah, very cool. Yep.
So how can you get more involved with the park or help volunteer, specifically with like the horse trails as like equestrians?
Well, we have a great volunteer department, and I think on the website there is a link for volunteering. And no matter what park you wanted to volunteer at, I'm sure there's an opportunity. If you wanted to do something specifically for the horse trail, you could get a hold of me at the Metro Parks email, and I can hopefully try to come up with something right now.
Nice.
Or in the future.
Nice. Mikey's on that list. You can call on him too. He said he signed up for a list to volunteer. So yeah, he wants to be a part of it. It's wonderful to be a part of the community and do things like that. Makes you feel so good. And then you get to learn more about your park and your surroundings.
Yeah.
So yeah.
All right. We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we'll enter our next segment, Canter Banter.
This podcast is brought to you by RAMM Horse Fencing and Stalls, the one-stop shop for your horse farm. RAMM is family-owned and operated and has been in business for over 30 years. We welcome you to call in and speak with an expert about your next project today at 866-653-8984. Again, that's 866-653-8984.
And we're back. On this segment of Canter Banter, we're going to talk about a very special trail picnic.
So I remember very vividly going with Lora riding through the park, and it was just a glorious day. Just passionate about riding anyway, and being able to go was just so much fun. And so Lora had said she would bring the picnic food, and we would bring some other things to kind of go along with it. So I'm thinking, well, this is great. We're on our horses, we're riding through the trail. We come to this picnic table, we tie our horses, we sit down, and lo and behold, she pulls out like a gourmet lunch. And I was like blown away. And so, Lora, you make special picnic food. Your food's good too.
I think
so. Tell me about your picnic food, or what you do when you go out. That was amazing.
Well, before I present the picnic food, I think I put a tablecloth on the
It
table.
was so wonderful, so fancy. I felt like I was at a restaurant with our horses behind us playing with each other.
So I think on
I
that,
think my mouth went.
and
so
it was
cute.
cloth. I
It was
pulled
so
out a
cute.
cloth table.
It was fun.
I guess I don't. You can keep.
It was fun.
You can keep gourmet simple. I think that day I made a fruit salad, and I also made. We call it
Special
Mama's
food.
dip because my friend's mother made this dip for her, and she shared the recipe with me. It was olive oil. It was Roma tomatoes sliced really thin, red onions, and basil and olive oil. And I add a little bit of salt, and then you take I'm sure you're supposed to use Italian bread, but I use a French loaf, a small French loaf, and you cut that up, and then you dip that
It's very
in
fancy.
the olive oil, and you put the basil and onion and tomato on it, and it's divine.
It was very pretty. It was just like better than a restaurant. It was so much fun.
But you can pack a lot of really cool things. It doesn't just have to be, beef jerky and protein bars.
Yeah.
You just have to use the right container so you don't end up with it on the inside of your saddlebags. And the bouncing around from the horse can actually mix some things up, too.
It's true.
That's a good idea.
I didn't know whether I was like at a special restaurant or like with Mary Poppins because she was pulling things out. And it was just like, ooh, each time was more wonderful when she got something else out. And it was just so much fun. It was
So
a big
you
surprise.
use saddlebags to carry your food in.
I did. Well, actually, that day I think I just had like this cloth purse that we just tied onto the. It was just a big purse because I think the saddlebags weren't wide enough, so
Okay.
I kind of put everything in that bag.
What do you like to carry your food in the most? What is the one thing you found that works the best for?
The plastic containers, just because they're light. At home, I try to use glass. Since it's more environmentally sound. But on the trail, I do like plastic. I don't want glass breaking all over something.
Do you like a certain kind of a saddle carrier or anything like that, or does it matter? Like you said, you had a cloth bag that day.
I had a cloth. It was like
Yeah.
a purse my sister gave to me, but I have leather saddlebags. I have nylon saddlebags. When I'm just on a trail ride, if I know I'm not going to stop for lunch or something, I don't carry saddlebags. Mm-hmm. I'm pretty simple, but on that special day,
it was very special.
It was very special.
I had that bag loaded.
It was just a beautiful day. It felt like a Martha Stewart day. It really did. It was special. It was very, very neat. You made it special. It was fun.
And you can't see me, I don't think, but I'm smiling. I have a huge smile on my face.
Well, thank you, Lora, for taking time out of your day to come talk to us. We hope you enjoyed listening to our podcast and encourage you to share with all your equestrian family and friends. You can tune into the Late Night Riders podcast show every Friday night. Each episode will be uploaded exclusively on YouTube, where you can subscribe to our channel to stay up to date with all of our latest shows. Do you have a topic you'd like to discuss? We want to hear from you. You may email us at podcast@ramfence.com or feel free to leave a comment below. Thank you again for listening.
Thanks, Laura, for coming.
Thank you.
This was fun.
Thank you, everybody.
Mm-hmm.